All right. I'm almost certain we're live right now.
All
Um,
right. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Hi. My name is Tyler Crook, and this is Drawn to the Shop. This is the show where we talk comic shops, and while we talk, I do a drawing for the store. And if you spend $100 or more between right this second and July 8th, 2020, um, you'll be entered to win the drawing that I do right now. And today I'm drawing Miles Morales. I got him penciled already here.
Oh, that's
Hard to see
nice.
maybe on there. Uh, yeah, and this is Ethan from Destiny City Comics in Tacoma, Washington. Um, Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing all right. Hanging in there. This has been a rough couple weeks, man. Tell you what.
I can imagine.
But
Yeah, like I don't know. It's nice now that everyone's wearing masks, but
hmm
I feel like there's been more pushback. Like just seeing people online, like really digging their heels in and
yeah.
pulling out like all the pseudoscience they can.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nuts. Um, so do you want to just give us a little sort of overview of your shop, like how long you've been around and like where you're at
Yeah,
and stuff like that?
totally. Yeah. So Destiny City Comics has been in the great city of Tacoma for the past 5 years. This is year six, right in the heart of Grit City, which Tacoma doesn't like the nickname Grit City.
Oh yeah.
It was kind of bestowed upon the city by the residents
Mm-hmm.
and caught on. And so I think like this last year or so, they officially renamed it the City of Destiny.
Okay.
But it hasn't really caught on. But it is the name of the shop. It inspired the name of the store, Destiny City Comics.
I had
But yeah, my
wondered
wife
about
and
that.
I took over from the original owner back in December last year. So 4 months into owning a comic book store, the pandemic hit, and so then we closed our doors to the public for about 3 months, and this is our first month back open, and we're very lucky that like we have a very, I guess, kind of left leaning liberal fan base for the most part, or I guess customer base.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't really had any problems with like people like refusing to wear masks or coming in, with their like fake disability cards they printed off of Instagram or anything like
Yeah,
that. Like
yeah.
we've been pretty lucky. I think we had one guy walk in, and I knew from the get go because he walked in with no mask, and we have signs that say like wear a mask.
Yeah.
And he walked in, and I knew he was going to be an ass because he was wearing those like Ray J earbuds, and I just knew it. And so like I tried like waving from the counter, like, "Hey, you got to put a mask on." And finally, just walked over, like holding a disposable mask, and I was like, "Oh, you got to mask up, bud." And he just coldly no, and then just turned and walked out the door.
It's like, all
But
right.
aside from him, everybody else has been great. So I can't complain too much. But yeah, I mean, it's cool as far as the shop goes. I'd say we definitely specialize in carrying like indie comics. We have a whole shelf just dedicated to zines and like self-published comics by local authors. Um, and yeah, we just kind of anything that's a little out there. I mean, obviously, we still have like your Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, IDW, Boom, like all of those titles.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely what sets us apart is like we try to carry stuff nobody else carries, and then also just be very community forward. So like, a couple things we've done this
Yeah.
month. We're selling shirts that there's two designs you can get. One is Buenos noches, pendejo Trump,
I
and
really enjoyed
it's a
that one
stick
actually.
figure drawing of Donald Trump getting his head kicked off
Mm-hmm.
by a luchador. And then the other one we have is Good Night Alt Right, and it's much the same design, just a member of the alt right getting their head kicked off by a little wrestler. We've been selling those for $20 a piece. The entire purchase price goes towards Black Lives Matter, Seattle King County. So we've been doing that, and then we just sold a bunch of comic book themed face masks to wear in public, and we
Oh,
donated those to Gilson. And Gilson is an organization, and what they do is they work with schools to provide a safe environment for LGBTQ students, whether it's imploring new policies to make sure they're safe in their own schools, encouraging them to start after school groups as well, to just build a sense of community. So those are the two ones we've been doing right now. Um, and then just last week, we donated a box of comics to the Tacoma Rescue Mission, and so they work with either low income or families that are in between housing, and basically help them get back on their feet, whether it's they need food or leads on jobs or shelter, whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
So we just they just picked up this is like the second box they picked up from us, and then hmm, I'd say it's probably yeah, it probably as far as I guess recent events in the shop go.
Hmm. That's really neat. That's something that's like um been really I mean, this has been like such a stupid hard month for like everyone, and it's been like very neat to see the number of people in the comics community, whether it's pros or shops, really like putting a lot of just trying to raise a lot of money for people, really. I mean, I know like my art dealer has been doing rounds of donation stuff, and I know like I think Becky Cloonan raised like $3,000 for a bunch of charities. I just finished one for the Navajo Hopi COVID Relief Fund, and that raised a couple grand. Yeah, and it's weird how, and it's not weird, but it's neat how like everyone's having a hard time, but everyone's also like working hard to make sure that, or at least trying their best to make sure that people have some sort of relief, you know?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. I'm consistently blown away by the not even just the amount of charity I've seen on Twitter, but
mhm.
just the where it's coming from. Where you're not seeing like so many big businesses, like, oh, Nike's donating blah 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 to COVID relief, or like Microsoft's donating X amount to COVID relief.
Mhm.
But it's been a lot more like community driven things.
Yeah.
When people coming together to, pay for like George Floyd's funeral, or it's people coming together, just to make sure that like food banks have enough food.
Yeah.
Like this is the most community driven, I guess, time of charity that I've seen. Where yeah, like whole towns are just coming together to make sure that everybody has what they need, everyone's taken care of as well as possible.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know. It's one of those things where always I don't know. I always joke that I'm like never not surprised when people are at their worst, but I feel like I am I am equally as proud and impressed when people show out in droves to be their best.
Yeah. I was talking to a buddy who was really freaked out by a lot of the Black Lives Matter protests, and I it occurred to me like in sort of talking to him about it that just how amazing it is that in 2020 millions of Americans have been on the street like in the last month, and to protest, to put themselves in front of cops and be like Black Lives Matters, and that's huge. Like that's a beautiful thing to have happen. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
it sucks
amazing.
that it has to happen, but it's beautiful that people are like actually out on the street right now and doing this important work, you know?
Yeah, because I know like the Rodney King assault and riot, like that all happened when I was very young, and so that was
Yeah.
kind of like my first inkling of this kind of like public unrest towards the police when they step out of line.
Uh-huh.
And then I think for a long time we all just kind of grew numb to this scenario of African Americans being killed by police and there being no repercussions, and it is what it is. And I think it was just really cool to see all these people finally put their foot down, not just African Americans, but just people in general and just say like, enough is enough.
Yeah.
You need to be held accountable. Defund the police, things like that. And like up here in Seattle, like it was called the Shaz, now it's called the Chop. But they just took like a whole section of Capitol Hill in Seattle, and they're just I don't want to say holding it hostage, but it basically turned it into a police-free safe zone.
Mm-hmm.
And the things they've been able to do while there have been amazing. Like the people who were staying there, like shopping at local businesses and helping keep them open.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
they've
it's so
cleaned up
funny,
local
like
businesses.
it's so
A
funny how
lot of these
like
people.
anarchy
Okay.
there takes the form of like a farmer's market, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. They've been taking care of like the homeless people that live and sleep there, and like offering them food as well, and like just all these really cool kind of like acts of kindness that have come out of it. But yeah, it's just so wild that in our time, this could be the turning point where police are held accountable for what's going on. And,
Yeah.
I mean, fingers crossed, obviously, this is the turning point. Um,
Yeah, it's also very exciting to see so many people like actively trying to learn new stuff. Um, I know that I was very guilty of sort of taking the activist point of view of like thinking of things as like barn raisings where everyone gets together and you fix a problem and then it's fixed for forever. And like I'm slowly like turning my mind to like more the idea of like it's dishwashing. Every day everyone gets together and you wash the dishes, and then tomorrow there's going to be more dishes to do, and tomorrow there's the day after that there's more dishes. And it's just like doing steady constant work to try to like just do it every day, make the world a little bit better every day.
yeah, absolutely. And like I feel like a lot of people are under the assumption that you know there's going to be these protests and then things are going to change. But I think it's really people having their eyes opened to what's going on, and the fact this is like a consistent issue.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, like I need to adjust my behavior and need to be aware of what's going on
Yeah.
versus just like I donated, I held up a sign, I got maced. Racism's over, guys. But, just being actively aware of being racist, and whether it's microaggressions that people aren't necessarily aware of. Sometimes it's just verbiage that's either outdated, or you just hear it so often that it doesn't seem
Yeah.
offensive. But if you like were to speak to somebody that way, then you realize like how offensive that comes off.
Yeah.
Like my favorite is always the you're so well spoken. Is always like kind of these like weird backhanded like compliments towards like people of color.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even just like the casual like, oh, he doesn't act black. And it's like, well, it's kind of a shitty thing to say. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
then if you were to say like, well, what is acting black like? Then there's immediately this like backpedaling or like, well, like
Yeah.
you watch like like this 50 Cent like in the club video, like you know.
Hmm.
So I think it's just like becoming aware of things like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's a like having been a white dude raised in a white dude world, it's always surprising to me that like sort of the profound ignorance that I was raised in, you know what I mean? It's like there's so much where I was sort of taught that like as a white dude I just sort of know everything. And then to be like, "Oh shoot, I do not know anything." Is like it's frustrating. But it's an important step, and in a lot of ways it's so freeing to be like, I do not understand the black man's experience in America. Like I can sort of like intellectually think of it and I can sort of emotionally relate to people, but I'm never gonna like truly understand it, like as I would if I had lived it. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Oh,
so it's just a matter of like, I don't know. I'm also like really bad at talking about race. You know what I mean? That's the other thing that I'm learning a lot. That I'm trying really hard to find all the, the language to actually talk about it. And,
Yeah, well, it's like I get, for me, like I'm like a big supporter of like the LGBTQ community, and like I do what I can. But yeah, it's I feel like kind of the same way where like you're always learning like new verbiage, and like what is and isn't acceptable. And obviously there's a lot of reflection of looking back at things you either did or said or just assumed were true, and like
yeah,
realizing like how wrong you are, and then kind of also acknowledging like I'm probably still very wrong about a lot of things.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then
It's
last
like I
two I
was
think is
saying.
just listening. Like I had a couple of buddies when like all this stuff started going down. They reached out like, how can I like be an ally to people of color? And I was like, listen, like hit that retweet button. Share things. It's about amplifying somebody else's experience or their voice,
Yeah,
not retelling a story you've heard.
yeah,
And so, but yeah, but and those are all things I've just kind of picked up as being an ally.
hmm
You know, um, yeah, and I hope hopefully, like we'll get to a point where we can be more open about conversations about like race and sexuality and gender. But it's just tough because there's always going to be people who are just going to be negative, and you're always going to have those people who are just willfully ignorant,
yeah,
and that's always the struggle, right? Is like how you can't, if somebody's just ignorant to like something, you can explain it to them if they're open to learning. But if somebody's willfully ignorant and just doesn't want to learn and refuses to accept that it's possible they could be wrong about this.
hmm
Like we had a period in Washington, there was a local wrestling coach who got in trouble for posting on Facebook a parody of George Floyd being killed. He had somebody
mm,
kneel on his neck, and he was like giving like a thumbs up to the camera, and then posted like, oh, the media's race baiting and all this. And all these people on his Facebook came out and said, like, this is unacceptable, it's inappropriate, delete this. And he just kept changing the status, but he left the photo. He just kept changing the caption.
ugh,
And so then eventually the news got a hold of it because there was just so much local outrage. And he had this opportunity to be on the news, like they interviewed him on television on the local news. And to me, like most people who say something, who aren't famous, who say something horrific or incredibly insensitive, don't get a chance to apologize like on a public forum like that.
uh-huh,
But and so I watched the interview, and he just digs his heels in and is like, I'm not a sensitive guy, and I was just trying to stick up for the police and show, like, what they did isn't necessarily dangerous, and there could have been other circumstances. And it's like, stop. Like
yeah.
you've congratulations on doing the only thing you could have done to make things worse.
Yeah, no, it's amazing how many people, especially like today, like in this day and age, the number of people who are being filmed and they won't stop. You know what I mean? It's like the people throwing fits in the grocery stores and like everyone just pulls out their camera and it's like people should know by now. It's like when everyone pulls out their camera and you're being a wacko, you should just stop and like go away.
Yeah, you would think in the era where everybody has like a camera and a phone on them,
Yeah.
and there are so many ways to share media than there's
Yeah.
ever been in so many different platforms. You would think people would just have more decorum, just assuming like any stupid thing I do or say could end up on the internet.
Yeah.
And it seems like almost the opposite, where it's like people are just more flagrantly like offensive and just abrasive, even
hmm
in the face of being filmed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I was watching this video somebody sent me, and it's this I guess Karen-esque type person in a 7-Eleven, and she says the N word to like a black woman, and so the cashier is filming her as this like interaction's going down, And the black one's very angry and
Hmm.
challenges her to say the N word again. Um, which at that point, don't accept the challenge.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but Karen, she steps up to the plate and she lobs a hearty N bomb at this lady and just gets beat up.
Oh no.
And all I could
Like,
think of was like, you know you're being filmed. Like, you know this 7-Eleven has security cameras. You can
yeah,
see the cashier holding his phone. Walk away from this moment.
yeah.
Like, you don't need an Arizona tea so bad.
Yeah, and like, man, I would hate to get beat up over being so wrong. You know what I mean? And so like 101 wrong. Like you should know that you're wrong. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to like not apologize and immediately just be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, that was very out of line,"
Yeah.
but to just be aggressive back and to like, I'm
Yeah.
holding my ground. I said it, and I'll say it again.
Yeah.
And then yeah, but then just getting beat up on camera and again just knowing you're being filmed doing all of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And then the
anyway,
first oh, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say we should maybe talk about your shop a little bit more. Like
That's fair.
this
That's
stuff is
fair.
like it's so hard not to talk about this because it is like it is all consuming, man. It's just it's like every moment of being in America right now is like it's hard to like not be like really like in this in this moment, you know?
Yeah,
But
because everywhere you go, like you're just like bombarded with information.
yeah.
Like I feel like back in the day, like you kind of had a reprieve from being informed, like before like cell phones and things like that, before the internet, where like you maybe read the paper at
Hmm.
home or you watched the nightly news, and that was your time to be informed of the world. And the rest of the time you were just out doing you and not thinking about or being bombarded with all of these horrible things that are happening. I mean, the president tweeted this just exploded over here.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of just like have like a nice 16-hour chunk of your day where you weren't just reminded of the horrors of the world.
Yeah.
But now it feels like you check your Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, or really any app nowadays is pretty connected to what's going on.
Yeah.
People will text you things.
It's so wild
It,
when you're like when you see something on the news sometimes on TV and you're like, I looked at Twitter 20 minutes ago and that person already like said that they were lying about that. You know what I mean? Like that
yeah,
stuff is wild.
yeah. I feel like
Yeah.
more people are getting their news from Twitter because it's so immediate.
Yeah. And it's a lot easier to get like bad info. Well, you know, you would think it would be easier to get bad info when it comes in that fast, but so often it's like the bad info lasts, you know, the 24, 48-hour news cycle before like and it's like fixed on Twitter or like everyone's talking about how like the bad info was bad info on Twitter, but on the news they're sort of still cycling through it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think too, especially for like things that are happening in the moment. I feel like Twitter's always the best source because you're getting information from people who are in the middle of it. Like when the protests were really heavy in Seattle, for the
Hmm.
Black Lives Matter movement, you could get a better feel of what was going on through seeing what people were tweeting about, and, whether it's pictures or videos or firsthand
Yeah.
accounts, versus trying to go on the local news website and see what they're saying, where they're at a distance and obviously they have to spin things a certain way, and there's certain verbiage they know, like they can only be so, I guess I don't say aggressive in the reporting, but
Hmm.
there's definitely like a line they can't cross. Whereas, somebody who's just on the front lines can just film a cop,
Yeah.
saying something horrific,
Yeah.
whatever it be. Or I know one of the instances that got on tape was a police officer macing a child, and
Yeah.
so those aren't necessarily things you would catch like being a news reporter and needing that like little bit of distance between what's going on and yourself. So yeah, I always feel like Twitter gives like a little bit more of like an honest experience of what's going on.
Yeah, especially like the people who live stream stuff, because you can sit there and watch like things unfold over the course of like a half hour, you know?
Yeah, and there's no editing, there's no way to
Yeah.
really have like a biased approach to it. Like whatever's happening in the moment, that is what's happening.
Yeah.
For better or for worse. Lately it's been for worse. I like that this live stream is for the better. This is for the
Yeah.
better.
I hope so.
Yeah.
We don't know what's gonna happen yet.
That
So
is true.
yeah.
That's true.
So let's talk about your shops more. So did you always want to own a comic shop, or is this sort of a more recent thing for you?
I don't think I don't think I necessarily wanted to own a comic book store as being like something on the bucket list. I
Hmm.
knew at some point I wanted to do something where I could have a bigger impact on my community than I could do myself. And I think when the shop became available, that became like my vessel, or I guess my I guess vessel for being able to do more than I could as a sole individual. And so I think in that sense, like, yes, but it, the exact like the specific being specific and about owning a comic book shop, no. But I've always loved comic books. I've always read. The reason I knew about Destiny City Comics is like that's where I bought my comic books at.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I guess I don't think it was ever a goal to necessarily like own a comic book shop. But I'm happy that it happened.
Yeah. Do you remember your first comic shop?
When I grew up, I used to buy my comics at the grocery store.
Yeah, me
They
too.
always had like the magazine rack, and they'd always put the comics towards the bottom because like especially in the '90s, comics stuff was like that's kid stuff,
Yeah.
you know. And so I would usually ask my mom to buy me something, but because they were by the register, it was always like we'd be in line, and then I would have to like sprint and just on a whim grab something, and then come back and be like, "Would you buy this?"
Uh-huh.
And if it was no, then I would just go back to the rack and try to read like as much as I can before we had to leave. I
That's
remember
awesome.
getting a lot of Superboy, and
Oh
for
yeah.
whatever reason, that was my jam. And I recently went back and like read something like that, like '90s Superboy.
Uh-huh.
It's not good. Like it's really not that good. I think it was just like he was a boy and I was like, well, that makes
That
sense.
tracks. Yeah.
I do remember growing up thinking that Luke Cage was like one of the biggest heroes because so many superheroes were white that I was
Uh-huh.
like, he must be extra special if they let him be a superhero too.
Yeah, he has that black excellence where he has to do twice as much as the white dudes to like get the appreciation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess as a child, I was like, that makes sense. But yeah, like that was I think my first experience. And then as I got older and I got into wrestling, I kind of fell out of comics for a bit.
Hmm.
And then once I kind of got comfortable in wrestling and could focus on other things again, that's when I started going back to like reading graphic novels, mostly because they just travel well. So I'd pick up graphic novels, trade
Hmm.
paperbacks, just stuff I get to take with me on planes and stuff, and not worry about crushing them or messing them up.
Gotcha. Yeah, tell me about your wrestling then. Do you wrestle in a league? Is that what you would call it? Like,
Kind of. So like being a wrestler is like being in a band. Like you're just kind of hired for gigs. And so
okay.
there might be like a wrestling company that puts on shows every month in their city, and they may say, "Hey, for our April show, we want to bring you in." But then
Hmm.
the flip side of that is there might be somebody who's like, "Hey, we run shows every month. We want to bring you in for every single one of them," and they'll just kind of list out like their dates for the year,
Hmm.
and then you just say yes to as many as you can to fit in your calendar. Um, but yeah, you're just kind of like your own little act, and people just bring you in to do your moves and portray your character and see how it interacts with other people's characters. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily there's like on the independents, there's a league. You just kind of go wherever they'll
Gotcha.
let you do your thing.
That's awesome. So, but you get to travel all over then, right? Do you mostly do like Pacific Northwest, or do you go further out than that?
Mostly the Pacific Northwest. Obviously, just because it's a lot cheaper to have me go like an hour north or 2 hours south
Yeah.
versus like stick me on a plane. But I've done a lot in California. Been out to Vegas for quite a bit. Been to Florida, out east a couple times, St. Louis. I've done a lot more traveling actually teaching wrestling. Like that ended up kind of being my
Oh,
niche.
interesting.
I went to India for 6 months and taught wrestling out there
Oh, wow.
for the great Ali, who's like, he's like a former WWE champion, and like in India, he is the man.
Yeah.
Like he is like a legend out there because over there, like wrestling's still kind of real. Like people like kind of suspect something's up,
Uh-huh.
but it's not like it's written off as like it's fake and it's for show.
Yeah.
So for him to like leave India, like a really rural part of India, and go to America and in their eyes like become the world champion, like
Hmm.
he is like yeah, just like the ultimate sports athlete over there.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
and then I've also been to like New Zealand, taught wrestling out there for 3 months, which is New Zealand is the most beautiful country in the world. Like it
Yeah.
is so green and lush and like you ever been to like Vancouver, BC?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like that. Like so like the cities are like very clean, everybody's super friendly.
Hmm.
And there's actually like a mandate where in New Zealand where X amount, I forget what it is, but there's some percentage of the country has to remain green. So you can only build on
Oh,
X amount of the land. And then
yeah.
you either need to like buy land that's already been built on, or you need to repurpose land you own to become like green, where I don't know if that's like building a field or planting trees or whatever,
Yeah.
in turn for building somewhere else.
Just so they don't sprawl out and eat up all their natural beauty, kind of.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so nice. And it's literally like the everything you fear about Australia, New Zealand just doesn't have. Like there's no venomous,
No
dangerous
snakes.
animals. Like it's the weather's very like northwest kind of climate. Like it never gets really hot.
Uh-huh.
Like I think when I was out there for like with their summer, which is like their seasons are flipped, I think like 84 degrees maybe is the hottest it got, like in the mid
Oh, wow.
80s. Like yeah, it doesn't get too hot, it doesn't get too cold, and yeah, I just 10 out of 10 highly recommend.
That's actually when I was like looking at your shop and seeing where you were at, I was like, because you're right by the bay, right?
Yeah,
Like
we
just a
can
couple
literally see
blocks.
the water from the front window of the shop.
Yeah, that's just got to keep it so nice in the summer. Like, I bet it's just heaven
We're
around there.
so lucky where the way the store's angled, our big front windows, the sun never hits them directly.
Hmm.
Like the awning just cuts it off like right at the sidewalk. So like we can put whatever we want in the windows. We don't have to worry about stuff getting faded
Oh,
or like the
nice.
windows getting super hot and just radiating heat back into the store. So it's always pretty comfy. Like this summer, like for the most part since we reopened, I've just left the door like just wide open and just like kind of let the breeze roll in.
Hmm.
So I'm
Yeah,
just
that's
trying to
rad.
enjoy the few nice months we have before it starts pouring rain again and
Yeah.
have to keep the doors shut.
Well, this might.
But yeah, right now it's really nice. We're in the stadium district, so we're like right down the street from the high school they filmed 10 Things I Hate About You at.
Okay.
That's like our weird
Sweet.
claim to fame is that this 90s teen movie was filmed here. And I think also because of that, they haven't really changed the outside of the school much either. Like they try to keep it looking pretty close to what it looked like in the movie.
Oh, yeah. Just the, yeah. Well, this might be a good time. You're on your tablet, right? You want to take us around the shop a little bit?
Hell yeah, let's do it.
Show us your layout.
Oh, all right. I'm trying to think where I guess the best place to start is. So let's start here. So these are our back issue rack. So trying to get like a good shot of all that. So these are all alphabetized painstakingly by me.
Yeah.
Um, so if I find books out of order and I find out you did it, I will find you. Then we got over here. Now I regret using the forward-facing camera.
I
Here's
think
where
you
our
can.
shelves where we keep like all our DC
I
and
think you can
Marvel
switch the camera if you
graphic
want to.
novels. We got a few gems up here. Got the treasury size Spider-Man, and then also the magazine size Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. And
Beautiful.
then this Pez dispenser set my mom just randomly bought me one day and said, "You should sell this in the store." So she's also very supportive. I don't know how well these will pick up because it's glass, but here's some of our fancy glass case comics. I think the one I think is the coolest out of all of these. I don't know how it shows up. So there's the Boba Fett action figure cover for like the Star Wars comics,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and then we also have the black and white store exclusive variant. So they only let you like have one per store.
Oh, wow.
But I think you also it's like one of those you have to buy like X amount of comics to have.
Yeah, yeah.
So we probably have like 70 copies of like Star Wars #4 lying around so that we can get it. Here's our new release rack, and there's actually not too many new releases on it. When we took over, we ended up kind of having a bit of a fight with Diamond over the name of our account because it was the same name as the previous owners.
Oh,
And
interesting.
so we had to kind of convince them that like these are two separate businesses. And then we got our section for the wee ones.
That's your kid section?
This is our kids section. We've recently got kind of cleared out of like Marvel comics because every parent comes in and just is like, my kid loves Spider-Man, my kid loves Black Panther, my kid loves Captain Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Those have been the three, so I always try to keep those in. I also really dig like the DC Supergirl stuff as well. And then what else do we got? I guess it's some kind of random stuff. We got like a Minecraft one, and I just because I know kids like Minecraft.
Yeah, yeah.
That's when I knew I was getting old. When I was like, "What are the kids into? They into this Minecraft." We got all our image graphic novels as well, which basically is just where we stole all our Saga stuff.
Yeah.
Here it is. So yeah, these were the
Those are your
shirts we were
shirts.
selling for Black Lives Matter. That's the Good Night Alt Right. And then I don't think we have the Adios Panejo Trump one up, but it's the same design. It's just stick figure Trump getting his head kicked off. Here's all our indie zines and locally published comics. So this is the whole rack. We got a secondary shelf down here. And yeah, so literally, like, if you're watching this and you're in the Northwest, swing by the shop with a few copies. Like, I mean, unless you're asking for like a ridiculous price, I'll usually buy at least like one or two for the shop. And what's cool about those, a lot of people just kind of ask for like random zines. Like they don't ask for anything specific. They'll be like, "Yeah, can I just get like $30 in zines?" And we'll pack them up and ship them off.
Oh, that's fantastic. I guess I didn't ask you already. How are you? Are you doing mail order and all that stuff? Are you doing like curbside pickup? Also.
We're still doing mail order. We're still doing curbside pickup, letting people in the shop as well. But yeah, I still kind of encourage people if you know exactly what you want and you're not trying to browse, by all means, go ahead and just shoot us an email. It's ethanhd@destinycitycomics.com, and I will mail it to your house. Just I know there's a lot of people who either don't feel comfortable going out. There's a lot of people who are immunocompromised. You know, whether it's they've had surgery or like lupus or anything like that. So I highly encourage them all to still do mail order if you can. But honestly, if we can be open safely and let people browse, that's always cool too. But yeah, I would say we still probably get like 2 to 3 like mail orders a day.
Nice.
So it's been keeping us keeping us busy. Also, we just have this giant Shadow Man head
Oh,
from
good
Valiant.
old Tauncey.
It's a hair too big to just stow away in the back. So also, if anybody wants this, they can happily just have it for like $20.
Oh my God, I would drive up there if I had the time.
I like it. It's just it takes up a lot of real
Oh
estate.
yeah, yeah, I can imagine.
And then this is our mixed publisher, and this is where like we put all our Boom, IDW, Dark Horse, all that. And I post on Instagram. We have a couple of books you've illustrated. Let's see if I can pull one out without.
Oh, and someone in the comments is asking, do you have any M or L left? I'm not sure what that
M or
means.
Medium or large?
Oh, medium or
Oh,
large?
medium and large shirts.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head which ones we do. I think we have a large left, but I don't know if it's in the Audio Spadejo Trump or if it's in the Good Night All Right. But yeah, I would say that's a pretty brief tour of the shop. It's as far as I'm willing to walk without risking getting kicked off the Wi-Fi. But yeah, if you come to the store, I highly recommend hitting this shelf first. It's in the back of the store, but there's always tons of hidden gems just kind of floating around. So I always recommend people just kind of dig through there. So there's always, because especially for like stuff that's I don't know, I guess licensed, we tend to have those. Or like if I buy like a collection of graphic novels off of somebody, typically those will go in there too. So you could also just get a really good, like usually a really cheap copy of something.
You have a small and an XL of the Good Night All Right. Everything else is 2X.
Yeah. Oh, so my wife confirmed. We have 2X in both designs, and then we have small and XL in the Good Night All Right. We are almost out of shirts. It's been like in the month we've been open, I think we've sold out of just about all of them except maybe 4 or 5.
That's awesome.
Yeah, people have been really supportive about it, and especially like I'm never sure how people want like take to like anti-Trump stuff.
Yeah.
Because like on one hand, like a lot of people dislike him, but especially with shirts, it's like I don't know if you want like a caricature of him on it, even if it is him like getting head kicked off or something. But yeah, I think people have been like really responsive to it. Probably especially now more than ever, just because he's just been the absolute worst.
Yeah.
I think people are a lot more okay with it now than they were at the start of things. But yeah, no, people have been we've moved so many of those shirts like in the month we've been open. But I also feel more comfortable selling them because the store's not profiting off of it, like it is going to a good cause.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think I necessarily would have carried them otherwise.
Yeah, they're beautiful though, and it's one of those things like with the show. Like one of the things that I've like the whole point of the show is just to focus on the shops and stuff, and I've sort of wondered like how political to get with it, but I think I don't know, it's important enough that like everyone watching the show should know that the Drawn to the Shop show does not support Donald J. Trump, and we believe that Black Lives Matter, and trans rights are human rights, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think comics have always been kind of political anyways. Like the X-Men's
sure.
always been an allegory for minority groups, whether it be how like people of color have been treated, how like the LGBTQ community has been treated. Like we have the hardcover of like the whole North Star like wedding story arc. So yeah, I think comics have always been slightly political.
Yeah, I feel like they've always like, at least the ones that I remember reading were always like, overtly political, and they weren't always liberal. Like sometimes they were very conservative in the message they were given, but they were always trying to say something, you know?
Yeah, for sure, right? Like, yeah, because at the end of the day, like, they're still written by adults, and they
Yeah,
still have like political opinions. Like, even if you're marketing towards kids,
yeah.
it's hard not to have like some of your bias show through one way or the other.
And
Like,
honestly, like growing up, that was a huge attraction to comics was when they felt like they were dealing with adult topics, you know? When you're like 13 and the people in the comics are trying to talk about racial justice, that's it makes it feel like you're part of the adult conversation, you know? Which for
yeah,
me when I was growing
absolutely.
up was important. Like that felt like important and good.
Yeah, and it never felt like you were being talked down to.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Like,
that was a huge thing. Like the vocabulary was always like just on the edge of like challenging, you know, and like the topics were challenging. It's
yeah, I always felt like it was like when you're a kid and like your parents have like company over and they send you to bed early, but you're kind of eavesdropping on them and like
yeah,
learning what
yeah,
like adults really talk about. I always kind of felt that way when you would have like a very serious issue of like Spider-Man or Superman and they would touch on like genuine like political issues.
yeah.
And yeah, yeah, like you said, like it feels like you're part of the grown-ups conversation. Like and you're not being talked down to, it's not being necessarily watered down.
Yeah. Is there anything you've been reading lately that you think is particularly good?
I think what's the last thing I've read? I've been trying to read more books.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I read that was really good.
Yeah, right.
Um, I read. I guess the most recent thing I read or reread was the Flash like Rebirth series by DC. But that was just kind of just because I just love the Flash.
Yeah.
Last thing I read that was really good was Ed Brubaker's Velvet series.
I don't know if I've ever even heard of that. Who published
It's
it?
so it's kind of this crime spy noir thing. It's set in I'm gonna say like the '60s ish kind of era, but essentially it's like a James Bond type story. If James Bond got killed and Moneypenny had to go into the field to find who killed him,
Okay.
and so the way they build up Velvet without giving too much away is at the start, it's just implied like she's a secretary there at their version of MI6.
Uh,
And she just answers phone calls, takes like notes, things like that. And then when the top agent gets killed in the field, she feels like they flubbed the investigation on who did it. So she tries to go out to the field to figure out what really happened and ends up getting burned and framed for his murder. And so then she ends up going
oh.
on the run to get away from MI6, who thinks she did it. So she's trying to prove her innocence. And then they kind of backtrack and explain like she used to be an agent, but it was this kind of like buried secret. So all these agents are like, how the hell does she know how to like fly this and like, stay deep cover and all that? And then like, you slowly learn more about her backstory as
Mhm.
she's trying to solve this murder. But yeah, that was really good. The artwork is incredible. Um,
Is that
I'm a
Sean
big Ed Brubaker
Phillips?
guy, so I'll read just about anything he's written.
Oh yeah.
Um, All My Heroes Have Been Junkies is another one of his books with Sean Phillips that I just read not too long ago that I really liked. Um, and then there's a couple like I've read that I always keep on in stock just because I like in the store because I really believe the message and I really enjoy the story. Like one is Alters, and they kind of draw this parallel between like a trans woman who starts transitioning
Uh-huh.
and her also having like burgeoning superpowers at the same time. And so they do a really good job of kind of putting her in this kind of Peter Parker self-discovery kind of story, but they parallel it with the concept of transitioning. So it kind of gives you like a better understanding. Like it takes a story you're very familiar with, and then parallels it to kind of help you understand what it's like for a trans person to transition as far as learning about how their body is changing, how their friends react to it, how their families are going to react to it,
Hmm.
how society is going to view them. And so, like, there's a really good job of kind of helping people understand that. So I always try to keep that on hand, and that was through Aftershock Comics. But yeah, like that, Velvet's one I've recently been keeping on hand a lot. Um, and then also Mystique from like I think it's like the early 2000s, like 04, 05. And it's a series. I think Brian K. Vaughan did the first, I think 13 or 14 issues, and then somebody picked up afterwards and continued it. But with that one, they ended up making Mystique like a spy character, and she gets hired by Charles Xavier to do like mercenary stuff that the X-Men can't do on the books. And so his, I guess not really mercenary work, but like the one rule is she can't kill anybody,
Uh-huh.
and in turn, he'll keep her from ever going to jail for like all the crimes and murders and stuff that she did commit. And so it's
Okay.
cool seeing her use like her powers as like a master of disguise and getting out of like these scenarios without shooting her way out or just murdering people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they put her in like real life scenarios though, like she goes to like North Korea and deals with like Kim Jong Il. She goes to Cuba and like just deals like real world issues, and they just kind of like plop her in the middle of it. And so yeah, like we were talking about earlier, like it's a little political, as
Hmm.
far as how they handle things, but it's never overtly this pushing their politics on somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something I always liked about Marvel. Like I was a Marvel kid growing up, and a huge part of that was just because Marvel took place in the real world. Like it took place in New York and Washington D.C. and stuff, versus like D.C. that was always uh, Metropolis and Gotham. You know.
Yeah, and they're always very like I don't know. I feel like outside of Metropolis and Gotham, they all became like really lazily named. Like I feel like Metropolis and Gotham is like those names are unique enough that you can build like they can kind of be their own thing. But then like Green Lantern from like Coast City or like Keystone City, like they weren't even
Uh-huh.
like trying to kind of
Yeah.
like hide the fact that they're just like we're just calling it what it as close to calling it what it is as we can.
Yeah.
Like we for sure want you to know where this is.
We
But
have.
yeah, no, I once I got back into comics, like especially like street level Marvel characters, um,
Yeah.
like Daredevil especially. Once I got back into comics, I really took a liking to. Like I read a lot of like the Kevin Smith stuff. But yeah, like I for sure I feel the same way. Like the street level heroes feel more genuine, and it feels more like this is the real world.
Yeah. We have someone in the comments who's asking if they can get more information on the raffle. And basically, the way it works is if you spend $100 or more at Destiny City Comics between today and July 8th, 2020, you'll be entered to win. Um, yeah, so all you have to do is buy some good comics, and you'll be
Yeah,
entered.
yeah,
Oh, to
and
win
like I said,
this
we
Miles
can we
Morales.
can take like shipments online. So if you want to do an order online, happy to oblige that. It's just
Hmm.
Ethan HD at Destiny City Comics. Or if you want any of our social media, the email address is linked to that, or you can DM me. We'll ship anywhere in the US, and I'm actually going to ship off a shirt to Canada this week. So I'm excited to see how I guess how difficult that is.
Yeah, how long that'll take.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know it's very expensive because
Yeah.
and like I knew it was gonna be a little pricier, but when I was like looking up like estimates, I emailed them back and it was like, "Are you sure about this?" Like I very much
Yeah.
appreciate this, but understand like this shipping is going to be very pricey. But they're still on board with it.
Yeah.
But yeah. If you want to buy stuff online, we have a few different distributors we buy like graphic novels through as well. So even if we don't have it in store, there's a good chance if it was published in the last 10 years, we can probably get it for you.
Oh. And the same person who asked about the raffle is asking if anyone has any recommendations for a good series to start reading Batman, especially if I'm interested in the Bat family specifically.
Ooh. Oh God. I've always been like a Batman one-off person. Oh, what I read recently that I liked is Batman and the Signal, and it's kind of introducing like a new member of the Bat family. And the Signal, like the best way I can explain, he's daytime Batman, but they do a really good job of like kind of helping him like showing how he assimilates and like into the Bat family, like the role he plays with like Barbara and Dick and like all these other characters that have already been established. And so a lot of it's kind of him finding his way. And then he's also the only meta in the Bat family as well. But yeah, he has like, just a really kind of cool like yellow suit to kind of clash with all the blacks and grays and dark blues of the Bat family.
What does that mean that he's the only meta?
So he's the only metahuman. He has the ability to see light and how it bends, and so it gives him like almost like he can like look at like a crime scene and look at it as like it's the negative of a photo and see like shapes and outlines of how like light bend.
Oh, interesting.
So he can go like, oh, somebody came in here and like, ran that way, and I can see like how it bent, and so they don't overdo it, and they do a good job too of putting him up against like, I guess, kind of underutilized Batman villains. So like he goes up against like the Mad Hatter, Calendar Man, and they kind of give them like a fresh coat of paint and make them more of like a legitimate threat.
Yeah.
So I like, and it's not so dark and brooding like most Batman series are.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think the last time I read like ongoing Batman, it was a little too dark for me, which is weird because most of what I do is horror stuff, but I don't really go to Batman for horror. Like my favorite Batman is always detective stuff.
Yes.
And yeah, I like him when he's like finding clues and solving some weird mystery. But that doesn't seem to happen as much anymore. But again, I haven't read a ton of Batman lately.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm even to this day, I still am a big fan of like trade paperbacks, graphic novels, more so than like single issues.
Yeah.
Just because I'm very impatient, and I'm for whatever reason I'm willing to wait 6 months for the trade paperback to come out, but I refuse to wait another week to find out what's happening in a story. So I tend to just kind of pick things up here and there. But yeah, like I appreciate like the detective Batman more so than he's basically on par with Superman as far as godlike abilities Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like that's always the struggle with like how he's written is he's supposed to be this detective, but then he ends up having to work with like Superman and Wonder Woman and Green Lantern and Aquaman, like all these people in the Justice League who are like essentially gods, and then they have to justify why this guy with a Gatling gun is able to just hang with them and not get murdered next to a guy who can run faster than the speed of light.
Yeah, and so someone, Bridget again, is asking, can I get some good horror recs?
Ooh, I'm not gonna lie, horror's like not. I'll say it's not my what one?
Revival's good.
Oh, Revival, yeah, Revival's a good one. My wife just shouted that one at me. I don't mind when stuff is dark and gritty, but like, I don't know, like horror. I'm always kind of, I don't know. I have somebody has to like recommend it to me, and I'll read it, but it's never my go-to.
I think the horror stuff that I've been really enjoying the most the last couple years has all been manga stuff. Like any Junji Ito book is going to be amazing. I don't think I've read any of his books that I didn't love. And then my books. I recommend my books always.
Yeah, we got Harrow County. We got I think three or four volumes in the shop right now.
Nice. You can order with the phone number on screen.
Right. You gotta get the QVC like sidebar going.
Yeah. Oh, and someone asks, can it be a mix of trade in comics and purchase?
Totally. I will be upfront. Shipping comics is a little pricier than shipping graphic novels. With graphic novels, we can use what's called media mail, and they'll charge us by weight, but they won't charge us by distance. So comics will probably be maybe $2 or $3 more to ship than media mail. Like media mail is usually probably around $3 or $4 for us to ship. And then, yeah, if we're doing comics, that gets a little pricier. But yeah, probably so you're probably looking at like $5 or $6 for shipping, versus yeah, like 3 or 4. But yeah, we'll absolutely will ship comics. We have a bunch of comic bundles that we have too. So like we have like the full run of like Hulk 2099 if you wanted that. We have like the 2018 2019 run of Runaways. I think 1 through 24 that I just put together. But yeah, we'll absolutely do that. Or if you just want like some of like the our older vintage stuff, like those all like single issues, those I'll put on our Instagram story. Like I just mailed off Wolverine 1 through 5 from the it's like 80 from 86, 87, somewhere in that area. Yeah, I just shipped those off to Portland. So yeah, all that stuff absolutely counts.
Is that what you were asking, putting check? Because I also can't tell if you're asking if you were trading in comics in exchange for other books.
Oh, yeah. We'll take trades as well. Yeah, if you want to bring in books for store credit, yeah, we'll absolutely do that. We'll do cash as well, but usually we'll cap it at like maybe 20, $30, just because I don't want to like take a bunch of money out of the till and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely, we take trade-ins for store credit all the time. That's usually how we get like a lot of our cooler books that are out of print is through people just trading in like old graphic novels. So absolutely will. As long as they're in good shape. That's I guess the caveat. If they have like coffee stains or anything like that, they're missing pages, then no. But yeah, if they just in good shape and were handled the way a human being should handle a book, absolutely will.
There's my cat telling us that she agrees with all of that.
My wife got up to like so we share a building with a bookstore, and there's like a little door that goes between the two.
Uh-huh.
And there's a cat over on the bookstore side, and she heard your cat meowing and thought it was the cat next door.
Nope, it's just my irritating cat. She's very old and mostly deaf, and it's resulted in a lot of screaming in the last year.
As cat do.
Yeah. Well, I am pretty close to being done with this, Miles. Is there any last stuff you want to tell us about your shop? Is there anything we missed, you think?
I think anything fun or cool about the store.
I like your Instagram. Everyone should follow you on Instagram because you post like some great workout videos.
I was gonna say, like, if you come by the store, there's a good chance you could catch me in the middle of doing something weird for the sake of like filming for Instagram. Whether it's like doing push-ups with like a long box on my back, or I'm trying to what I've done recently. Oh, recently I did like a headstand and picked up a short box in a headstand. So occasionally I'll do weird stuff like that. I have a lot of friends from wrestling who stop in. So there's a good chance you might bump into other wrestlers who stop by just to say hello. So if you're a fan of like the local wrestling scene or indie wrestling in general, if you stop in, yeah, like Daniel Makabe's been in here. Aubrey Edwards, who's like a referee for AEW, stopped in. Her and her husband. Yeah, I would say
cool.
Since we've been open, probably I had like 15 or so wrestlers stop in and say hello. So always a chance you can meet other wrestlers as well.
Yeah. What is your Instagram account?
The one for the shop is Destiny City Comics. And then my personal one is Ethan HD 312, and that'll have like more of my wrestling stuff. They do post stuff from the store on there as well. Mostly pictures of our neighbor's cat Herbert, because he wanders in here all the time. So if you love an obese tuxedo cat laying on a long box,
And who
boy,
doesn't?
do I have the Instagram account for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and then hopefully once things get closer to normal and we're able to do more social events, yeah, I definitely want to start doing like a game night. That's one of the first priorities.
Oh,
Is
nice.
just having like more casual board game night, whether it's like playing Flux or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing like D&D where you have to have a character, but just stuff you could pop in,
Pop in,
hang
pick up a
out,
game.
have drinks.
Yeah,
So hopefully we'll be able to get that up and running soon.
that's awesome. Yeah, man, you guys, yeah, you picked a time to start your company in hard mode. Your store is in hard mode. That's there's a couple like there's a books with pictures in Eugene that they were, I think their first day was going to be like early April or something, and it's just been like they were like just ready to open their doors on the first day of shutting down every store, you know. And it's tough.
I couldn't imagine opening a business during this. Like I've watched two different like restaurants being built while this is going on,
Hmm.
and just the idea of laying out all those tables and then opening your doors and taking out half those tables.
Yeah, yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, in more power to them. You know,
Hmm.
we try to be as supportive as we can. You know, whether it's just ordering food from them or if somebody's looking for food, recommending they go there. Um, we try to recommend vegan places just because my wife and I are vegan,
Hmm.
but yeah, we try to do what we can to support like local restaurants. But yeah, I couldn't imagine owning a restaurant in this climate with everything going on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, all right. Well, here, I don't know because you can't see this unless you're watching the stream. Here's my miles.
Oh wow, wow is that watercolor or?
Yeah, it's like acrylic ink and watercolor.
Oh my god, it's amazing.
Thanks. So anybody who is interested, if you spend $100 or more at Destiny City Comics this next week and a half, you'll be entered to win this very drawing. I always don't know whether to call it a drawing or a painting because it's both, I guess. But it's up for a raffle, so that's the important thing.
Yeah. It's a drawing for a drawing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Do you want to go over your contact info one last time for everybody, so they can get a hold of you and buy comics and follow you online and all that stuff?
Absolutely. Our website is destinycitycomics.com. It is a Wix page with a comment section. Do not try to reach me via comment. I will not read it. Not because I refuse to, but because I do not get notified for them in a timely manner. My email address is ethanhd@destinycitycomics.com. That is the best way to reach me. You can also get us on Twitter, Destiny City Comics, COMIX, because it's edgy. Destiny City Comics, the way it should be spelled, on Instagram, on Facebook, facebook.com/Destiny City Comics. Or you can always just call the shop, because apparently people still use the phone for talking, at 253-234-7112. And as long as I'm not in the middle of a conversation, I will try and pick up. But email, absolutely the best way to get at me. Instagram DMs, another good way to reach me as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's everything. If you want to get a hold of me, I am Drawn Shop or at Drawn Shop on Twitter. That's really the only official Drawn to the Shop social media. And I'm Mr. Tyler Crook on just about everything else. If you Google me, you can find me. I think that's it. Thank you so much, Ethan. This has been really neat. Your shop looks rad. Yeah, I'm glad you're doing good-ish. You know,
Doing well. Doing
yeah,
well.
you're
Keeping
doing good
our head
for
above water.
your pandemic times. Yeah, it's been really great to talk to you, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Like, I appreciate you reaching out and setting all this up and doing this for us, doing this for other shops. Um, yeah, thank you. This has been rad.
Awesome, dude. All right, bye everybody. Thanks for watching.